So it is 11:01, so we might as well get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining NGP Van and EveryAction present, uh, Turning Uncertainty into Action. My name is Ashley Wilson, one of the trainers for today. One thing to note for closed captioning purposes, we will be, as we're going through our slides, just saying who we are, so that way that information is captured. So you'll just notice that through the presentation.
Absolutely, and good morning, everyone. My name is Sierra Jackson. I'm the other presenter from the EveryAction side of the house. So just to go through a little bit about what we'll be talking about today, after we do our full intro, we're going to be talking about, we've all seen that meme, you know, of every month in the year of 2020 being essentially a new day and a new life and a new person for us all, and a new campaign for our organizations, or a new game. So we'll be talking about what that has meant for our campaigns on the NGP Van side, and for the nonprofits that we work with on the EveryAction side and organizing as the landscape continues to change. We'll also be talking about how we as a company have responded to that ever-changing landscape, how we rolled out new tools during the pandemic, and during the explosion of the BLM movement over the past few months, and some of those tools that you can implement as we continue to do GOTV work and important campaign work over the next few months into the election. And then we'll open up the floor and get questions from you all and have a little bit of discussion at the end.
And then, great. So this is Ashley Wilson. I am the Director of State and Local Political Campaigns on the NGP Van side. And so in that role, I work with campaigns from state ledge down to local school board and everything in between, and also work to support the efforts of organizations such as DLCC, the Democratic municipal officials, Emily's List, National Democratic County officials. So working with them to make sure that we get progressive folks elected into state ledge, into city councils, into city hall, as well as on school boards.
Yeah, and for those who are not familiar, NGP Van and EveryAction are the same, or two parts of the same company. So while Ashley works on the candidate and campaign side, I work on the EveryAction side. So I'm the Director of Social Movements and Advocacy Partnerships, which essentially means I work with all of our clients and customers that are using a lot of the voter file tools along with the EveryAction functionality. So that's the digital campaigns, which are your email and online actions tools, those direct advocacy tools, everything in the SMS, which we'll get into during this presentation as well, alongside some of our fundraising and our other suite of tools on the EveryAction side. So some of the clients you might see on our side are everything from the national affiliates like the Planned Parenthoods, ACLUs, NAACPs on that end, down to the local coalitions and regional coalitions that we see, down to like RAICES and a bunch of other folks on the advocacy front.
And so, well, just to kind of continue on with what Sierra was saying in terms of, NGP Van and EveryAction. So the NGP Van side works with political campaigns and just providing a place for you to run effective campaigns right from one place. So that means you're managing your donors, doing your compliance reporting, doing your outreach through, via email and online actions, and just managing, again, your whole campaign right in one place.
Yeah, and some more context to that. So NGP Van is definitely the OG side of the house, if you might say. So EveryAction has been around for about 8 years. So it's something that spawned from NGP Van, and we brought on a team of nonprofit professionals to build out that side of the house. So it really is a tool that's built, we like to say, for the nonprofit professionals by nonprofit professionals. So our executive director, Melissa Wires, has over 20 years. She started when she was 10 years old, of fundraising experience in the nonprofit space. We've got a bunch of other really smart and dedicated folks that all come from the nonprofit space that help inform the direction and the tool set of that product. And we're also a tool because we are 8 years strong. We've come, but we have, the backing of NGP Van. We also are a tool that we like to be really reactive and on the forefront of technology, which you'll see through this presentation. We've been able to be really nimble in the way we've pivoted our tool sets and features. And a lot of that comes from hearing from our clients. So because we've been there, we have open ears and open roadmaps, so to speak. So we like to get a lot of feedback from our clients and hear what you need and what you're looking forward to implementing into your programs, and put that into our tool set as well.
So now we are organizing in a new landscape. And Sierra touched on this earlier. Things have changed a little bit, from just every day, your day-to-day life, to how we are managing our campaigns and our advocacy groups. And so now we're just trying to see, what can we provide for our progressive supporters in terms of trying to get the message out to folks and to raise more money. And so what we've seen. So let's start from, I guess, the beginning, where we were earlier in this year. I think for sure, if there was anything we could say, is that early this year, we were ready to go. We were on the doors, we were making calls, we were talking to people, we were making sure that this year was the year we get out the current occupant of the White House and everything else around him. And so this is reflective on the numbers, in terms of the numbers of people we've seen that were knocking on doors between January 1st and March 3rd. There were over 500,000 shifts logged into Minivan, which is just crazy to me. And with a high number of over 31,000 canvassers on just one day, February 29th. And, that's just crazy in terms of just the movement, where we were going. We had realized that the only way we were going to get our message out was just to meet folks and talk to them and get out there. And so that was the direction we were going in. And I say we as in the progressive movement, as well as NGP. So we were yes, we were going to add on features and tools that were going to help with meeting people at the door and talking to them. Of course, things changed. And by the beginning of March, we started to see numbers drop. And of course, that makes sense. Stay-at-home orders were in place, social distancing. And so we started to see 2,000 to 3,000 users per day on Minivan. And what campaigns and organizations started to do was use Minivan for a different reason. So instead of your traditional door knocking, we saw people doing things like lit drop, passing information out about mail-in votes. And then as well as delivering food, delivering masks, hand sanitizers, just doing kind of check-ins, and of course, yard sign delivery. But it was just a pivot from what we had seen the few months before. What did start to increase were phones. So we started to see so many people using the phones now. People were home, people wanted to talk to some folks, and so you were having more engaging conversations on the phone, and you were seeing over 400,000 users on Open VPB so far, and we'll touch on Open VPB in a little bit, as well as an increase in usage from week to week from 2018. And then of course there's Zoom and other online communication, video communications that really became an essential part of our lives. So on the personal side, you're doing your meetings and on the professional side, I should say, meetings and everything. Personal side, I did my son's birthday party on Zoom. So we started to doing things like that. But, the campaigns and advocacy also started to do the same thing. So they were doing virtual phone banks, fundraisers, talking to volunteers. So we started to see a lot more engagement on Zoom.
Yeah, so after we
Okay.
So yes, so that's what we saw in Q1, Q2.
Right.
So right around the time that we realized that this pandemic was here to stay, we had to take a really hard look at our Q2 and Q3 roadmap and say, okay, well, clearly a lot of the things that we were planning to build for traditional door-to-door canvassing and organizing is not going to work. So we have to pivot. And like I said, we are a company that is new enough to be nimble. So we definitely got a lot of feedback from our clients and partners and said, how can we change that? But three things we knew that we had to lay as the groundwork was that this is not the time to just disappear. We know there's a lot going on. There's a lot of noise in the news. Like I said, there's something, whether it's, flying snakes or what have you, that's at the top of the news for the day. There's always something going on. So it's going to be really hard to break through that news cycle, but we know that there's important work to be done, so that we have to keep figuring out how to revamp those campaigns and keep them going. And be honest, let them know that, like, we know that, Ashley's currently teaching third grade and, having a full-time job. And, I'm here in the city with, everybody who is home all day long and starting to get a little stir crazy in a building with troubled Wi-Fi, and we know that all of our supporters and our people that are impacted and our constituents are in the same boat. So not having tone-deaf messaging and being really transparent and honest with folks is a good way to go as well. And then also just taking a look at, like, okay, what now? How do we transform our organization? And what is just, like, not going to work? Again, maybe the door-to-door knocking, or having rallies in person, or having the traditional events that we typically have. If we have to shut down, in person, or if the offices are shut down, then how do we pivot that as well? So we wanted to be able to use digital platforms and digital tools to help organizations make that shift and make it a little bit easier. So what that looks like is taking a little bit of what we already had in place and then layering it over with some new features and tools. So there's a lot on this slide, so I won't get really into the weeds of all of it, but I just wanted to touch on a few of the existing features and how some of our organizations have been using those features. So one, we already know that we have a really sleek fast action and one-click donation tool that's built into the platform where constituents can, chip in and give donations with one click. So with that, we saw a lot of organizations doing things like being transparent and saying, hey, because of the pandemic last month, we, had a 50% decrease in, one-time donations. We could really use some help to make sure that this organization doesn't cease to exist. Can you chip in $20, $30 to get us through the end of the year right now? And we saw that with fast action and one-click donations, a lot of organizations were able to do those one-off campaigns and help make up some of the gaps that they had seen in sustain our activity. Also with stories, instead of going door to door and being able to talk to constituents and supporters, using our online stories capture to say, how is the pandemic affecting you? Tell us your story. What's going on? How are you doing? And capturing that information through that online forum, and then being able to organize in story bank and be able to use that to communicate with the rest of your population as well. Using things like peer-to-peer and personal fundraising pages to have your supporters tell that story on your behalf. So if I told Sierra, hey, we are really in trouble as an organization, but I know that Sierra has supported us for 15, 20 years, and I want to see that organization continue to flourish, letting Sierra engage her network and make that personal appeal to do fundraising for your organization. And then, of course, Ashley talked about already, but looking at Zoom and saying, like, Zoom is the name of the game. We're literally on a Zoom conference right now.
Right.
So how can we make sure that the activity that's happening on those platforms is integrated into your EveryAction database, so that we're making sure that we capture the folks that log into those Zoom town halls and those Zoom rallies and those Zoom forums, and make sure that we know that they were there and they're accounted for, and that we can continue to follow up with them. And then we have some other things down here, which we're going to get a little bit more into in the rest of the presentation, so I won't dive too much into them. But definitely making sure that we're elevating that mobile front, that virtual phone banking front, that tightening and integration with Facebook and Twitter ads, and making sure that we also have some elevated click-to-call advocacy and SMS tools as well. And bear with me, this clicker does not like me.
There we go. So now, and Sierra touched on the tools that we are going to be highlighting, and kind of just like doing a little bit of a deeper dive, explaining what we have available, so that way, again, that the message doesn't stop. We don't stop communicating. We don't stop doing outreach. We don't stop raising money for our campaigns and for our organizations and get the message out there.
Yeah, so one of the first ways, so again, on the EveryAction side, our bread and butter is being multi-channel. The entire reason of being for our platform is because we wanted a platform that's true to its name, EveryAction, where you could log into one platform and see all of your voter file activity, your voter engagement, see all of your organizing work, but also see all of your digital touch points. So who's engaging on your online forms, who is engaging on your email, and having it be a multi-channel campaign. So when we're looking at that, we're really looking at okay, so we may have lost the or reduced the in-person front of that. So how else can we reach folks at home? And we're seeing that that's really threefold, mostly for the most part threefold. So looking at their phones, everyone always has their phone not too far away. And we know that conversion rates and reach rates are much, much higher on mobile than they are on email. So looking at phone banking tools and looking at mobile messaging and SMS. And then of course, email is still going to be that baseline. So looking at email advocacy or email campaigns, but also advocacy tools. So how are we engaging the little bit of extra time that folks might have now that people have given up on baking bread and all the sourdough starter is gone. But
and Tiger King is done too. I said, and Tiger King is done too.
Oh yeah, and Tiger King. I know, I'm waiting for the next Netflix thing to come out. Although Warrior Nun is pretty good. I like that one. So getting that extra time to get folks to reach out to their constituents or to reach out to their, elected officials. So emailing elected officials and also tweeting at them because we know that they're looking at Twitter. And then also looking at, once they're back in DC, engaging them on click to call as well. And then also looking at some, again, that tighter social media and external integrations. So we do have some built-in social matching features that are going to tell you who are your folks that are on Facebook and Twitter. And also that social referrer tracking. So we're going to tell you who are your big retweeters and sharers on those platforms. And then again, that integration with Zoom events to let you know who on your list is actually attending those Zoom events.
Yep. So I think now we're going to just start to kind of go through some of our some of the tools that we just discussed, but kind of just a little bit more detail. So right now, of course, we have our virtual phone bank and distributed contacts. 1 second, sorry. Okay. And so virtual phone banks are, the ability to set up a phone bank. So campaigns, organizations can set up a phone bank for your supporters to do right from home, which is great, right? So you don't need to, since campaign offices are closed and offices are closed, folks can still engage with other supporters, other volunteers, with voters right from their home. And so your campaign person can easily set that up. And then they'll have access to it. Of course, you can keep track of what they're doing in terms of like how many folks they called, what were the responses, schedule them for future events. And then we have the added layer of distributed contacts, which I think is awesome. In terms of trying to keep people engaged with their communities. So what you can do is you set up your phone bank. The phone bank is set up. You send the list over to your supporters. They're able to put in their zip code or the zip code of the community they want to talk to, and it'll pull the list of those folks for them to call. Which is great, right? Because you can then say, okay, here are people in my community. I know what's important to them. I know what the messaging is. I can relay that to them and then make it more, much more personal. It's just like as if you were going door to door. So if you know who your neighbors are, you're talking to them, you're able to say, again, here are the issues I know that are important to you. Here's how this organization, here's how this candidate is going to be able to push those issues, to the finish line. And so definitely, I think this is a great method, again, to keep relationships going, building a relationship, and spreading a very effective message.
And Ashley, I think you might have a question, but I can't see it while I'm sharing my screen.
Sorry, 1 second. I think there was a question about the closed caption, actually. I don't know if that's, or is there another question? Give me 1 second, sorry. No,
the question is, how does social matching work?
Oh,
we
sorry.
have a large EveryAction database, and it does appear to be finding matching of any contacts, social media profiles.
Yes, I see it now. Yes, so the question is, how does social matching work? Do you want to touch on that now, Sierra, or do you want to?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
And sorry, that was on the last slide, so I'm just late on the question. Apologies on that. So yes, so the social matching feature works. So as you may or may not know, EveryAction allows you to have multiple email addresses for a single contact record. And what our system will do is we have an algorithm that'll comb all of the email addresses on a contact record and look for publicly available social media profiles. So there's about 30 actually different social media profiles that it'll search for. The top 3, of course, that it's going to match are Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And then on an individual's contact record, you'll be able to see the links to those public profiles. On the bio page, we also have an integration that will show you like a live view of their, I believe, Twitter and like a snapshot of their LinkedIn profile as well. Facebook, we used to also be able to see a live view of that, but Facebook, when they got their hands up, they changed some of their APIs. So on their APIs, we don't see that, but it will show up that they do have Facebook on their contact record page.
Yeah, and I love that social media matching. I think it's super helpful. Especially if someone just like signs up to learn more about the campaign, and you're like, okay, who is this person? You can kind of get a glimpse of who they are just by like having that information readily available in the person's contact page. So I think it's great.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then like in Create a List, you can of course search by people who have been matched. So you can create a segment of people who are on Facebook and Twitter and send specific action alerts or things to them via email that they can easily share on those platforms, because they already have those platforms. So I've seen a lot of folks do some cool stuff with that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and so back on phones. Again, so virtual phone bank and open VPB. Again, we touched on virtual phone bank, so that's the ability for the campaigns to set up a list for supporters to make calls from home. With virtual phone bank, though, you do need access to VAN, but open VPB, you don't need access to VAN, so you don't have to create a whole bunch of VAN accounts for folks to get access to the open VPB. It's just a matter of having the link to open VPB, the list number, and then logging in using an action ID, which I think is great. Again, it just makes it that much easier and that much more efficient for your supporters to make calls. Distributed contacts is also available on both versions, on VPB, open VPB and VPB. And then you can do event scheduling. So everything is right there on that interface. So that way, as you're talking to folks and you're engaging with people, you're able to say, hey, do you want to do what I'm doing tomorrow night? And sign them up right then and there for the campaign, then to do outreach and to just, keep in contact with them if that's someone who wants to remain engaged with the organization or with the campaign. Can we go slide? And VPB Connect. This is my favorite thing right now. It was just released. It has received overwhelmingly positive feedback. I think it's awesome. So with Open VPB, what you can do and VPB Connect, you're going to increase your phone capacity like in seconds. Like literally, as soon as you have that enabled, it's I think going to change your phone bankers the experience of doing phone banking. And so with Open VPB Connect, you can dial landline and cell phones, but you can do it right in app. So I will show you this in a second. So you'll be able to, when the phone number pops up, you click on it and then it'll start dialing. So no need to use the supporter no longer needs to use their own cell phone. Their phone number isn't showing up on the other end when they're calling supporters. You set it up to see, what number shows up, what the callback number is. I think this is going to be great. Again, a lot of folks have had overwhelmingly positive feedback about this, and it's just actually been released. Well, it hasn't been released. I'm sorry. It will be released in a few weeks. But so far, the feedback has been great. Again, you can use it on your desktop if you have, if you log into OpenVPB, or you can use OpenVPB on your phone because it is mobile responsive. So it's just a matter, again, you send the list, they click on the number, it dials, it goes through, you record all the information such as events, if they're, events if they want to attend, whatever questions you're asking to capture that information, you're able to do that. And so we do have a quick little demo of VPB Connect, which I think everyone will love. Go ahead. Let's make sure. Ooh, is sound available? Hey, Sierra, I don't think we can hear it on our end.
Oh, okay.
No. When you go to the share screen, I think that there's that bottom to click to share computer audio. Is that clicked?
Oh, okay. Let me try that.
Sorry about that, guys.
No worries. Oh, there it is. Share computer sound.
Mm-hmm.
It's like no. One moment. It'll be worth the wait. 1 second.
Definitely is.
And let me know if you can hear when this starts.
Okay.
Open Virtual Phone Bank, or Open VPB, is an important organizing and communication tool that allows you to remotely queue and call hundreds of voters, supporters, members, or donors with the click of a button, and record the responses through a browser, all without having to create user accounts for your volunteers. Now, with VPB Connect, our Click to Dial tool, you can unlock the full potential of OpenVPB by improving the experience for your callers, saving time, and reaching even more supporters. VPB Connect is simple to set up and use. To have it enabled for your committee or campaign, contact your account executive. Then, when you set up a virtual phone bank in the CRM, click Enable VPB Connect. When your staff or volunteers are ready to make calls, have them click on the link they were provided, or they can go to openvpb.com and click Get Started. If prompted, enter the VPB code to begin making calls. The first time you use VPB Connect, you'll be prompted by the browser to allow use of your microphone. You'll see a summary of your supporters' information to the left, and their phone number and your script to the right. Now, just click on the contact's phone number, and VPB Connect will dial it for you. Hello?
Hi, I'm a volunteer with Jane Good for Senate. I wanted to ask you, what issue is the most important to you this election?
Once connected, you can proceed with your script and enter any responses, or click I couldn't reach if needed. When you're finished, just click Save and Next Call to move on to the next contact. That's it. VPB Connect allows your staff and volunteers to make the most of their time and streamline your communications. If you have any questions about VPB Connect or OpenVPB, let us know at sales@everyaction.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Sierra. And so, yeah, that is VPB Connect. Again, it'll be available later this month. So if any of you are interested in having that available on any of the NGP EveryAction platforms, so that's on your van, on your NGP, you'll be able, on your EveryAction, you'll be able to have this enabled. And so, and lastly, predictive dialing. And that is the ability to like set up your phone list, and then you'll have your volunteers just call through. So they don't have to dial. It'll just call through all of the numbers on that list, and it'll only connect your volunteer with someone when someone picks up the phone. Then you'll be able to talk to them. You'll have the interface to, again, capture all the information, you know, what issues are important to them, events that they want to attend, things like that. And then you'll have real-time results on the other end if you're at the campaign or organization to see like what's going on with your predictive dialing universe.
All right, so another, again, phones is the name of the game this year. So another feature that we have just released on the EveryAction and NGP van side is mobile messaging. So our mobile messaging tool is a blast SMS tool, and it allows you to take, you know, both numbers that you have on file, whether, you know, cell phones or mostly cell phones, and send a text message to them to quickly engage them to either take action around upcoming events or just for general information send over SMS. So yeah, so this is the two main things that we're looking at right now is the sending mess updates and driving action. One of the things that we are doing, this is right now in its early phase. So we are actively getting feedback from our clients about what tools they want to see in SMS. So we have two options that are available right now. So a 1-800 number and then a dedicated short code. And as we continue to add on to that tool, we're looking at adding things like short codes, automated opening up to online actions, and we're definitely sourcing for other features that folks want to see in an SMS tool on what to add in the next few months. So we have a short video for this as well to walk you through what the SMS feature looks like and how it's built into the platform.
Do you currently have a broadcast SMS program? Do you ever have difficulty sharing opt-ins between your online forms and your SMS tool? Maybe you are looking to start building up your SMS program, but are afraid of keeping your data in sync? We've heard these integration pains before, and SMS is an increasingly important channel to reach your supporters. which is why we're building a native mobile messaging product into our CRM. We'll show you how easy it will be to send SMS messages to your supporters. First, we'll give our message a name, so we can easily refer to it elsewhere in the system. Next, we'll be able to choose who the recipients will be. We'll initially launch with support for sending from a My List result, but we'll be adding the ability to send to a saved list or search shortly thereafter. With shared shortcodes going away, our mobile messaging product will leapfrog everyone else in the market by offering the same benefits, at much lower cost, by offering broadcast text messaging from toll-free 1-800 numbers. We're also going to support dedicated shortcodes if you either want to migrate your existing program to our system or lease a new shortcode through us. Now comes the fun part, where you get to write your message to your supporters and include a link for them to donate, sign up for an event, or to any other form you wish. Be sure to take advantage of emojis as well to make your message friendly. You will see how many recipients will receive your message, as well as how long your content is at a glance before you send it out. Then send your message. Your mobile messaging dashboard will show you high-level stats for all sent messages, as well as give you access to your draft messages. Naturally, your supporters' contact records will show what messages they were sent. And segmenting your list to find contacts who received a particular message will also be really easy, in case you want to suppress them from another email that will be talking about the same content. We're really excited to bring this product to you. We're launching an early adopter program in May of 2020, so talk to us today if you'd like to be on the list. Contact sales at EveryAction.com or sales@ngpvan.com for more information.
So as you can see, that video is a couple months old. So we already have some folks using this SMS tool. I know there's a lot of questions about, there's current clients that are using Revere or 3Text or other partners that we work with that we do have APIs with as well. We know that the number one priority across all of our clients is to win in November of 2020 and to make sure that your campaigns are doing well. So we're of course going to continue to support those at least through the end of the year. If you have any questions about how those integrate or how you can switch over to those or to the internal tool, definitely feel free to reach out to us. And there's a
Sierra,
couple
can
of
I add
questions.
also? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
just about like how, like, again, this is another release a few months ago that received such positive feedback, especially on campaigns from big and small. Like, we're definitely looking for a texting tool to reach some of those, voters and supporters. And so just being able to have that also in the same platform, I think was super helpful for a lot of these campaigns. So definitely, if you have any questions, let us know about that as well.
Okay. So there's a couple of questions both in the Q&A and in the chat. Do we want to take a quick 5 minutes to catch up on those, Ashley?
Yeah, sure. I know I can, give me 1 second, try to capture that, get that.
Let's do Q&A first, and then I'll look at the chat ones.
Okay. So it looks like we answered the question regarding social media, social matching,
Okay.
right? And there was a question about, I guess security for the platforms. And I think that's something, in terms of, give me 1 second, sorry. And so the question was, because political campaigns by nature have opponents and the other side seems to survive off of trolling, how do we prevent users with malicious intent from undermining virtual outreach?
So by virtual outreach, do you mean the virtual phone banking?
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, right. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, so that is at top of mind, I think, for everyone these days.
Right.
And I can be the first to say NGP Van does not play. Like,
right.
Hired going into the election cycle, I think in 2018, I think we hired either 2 or 3 new security specialists to our IT team to uniquely focused on securing the platform. So we've done things like adding other layers of authentication. So now you'll notice that when you log into Van, you have to have, I think it's either a dual factor or a triple authenticator, depending on what your admin level is. To log into the platform. You notice that even though it's an open VPB, you still need a code, and that's a generated code to access it. The platform itself is encrypted, and then we also make sure that your data is stored in multiple different locations. So it's backed up. We have I think daily backups that we save, and we save backups for up to like 2 weeks as well in other places. So there's a lot, and we can get you like white papers on white papers of all
Right.
the things that we have been doing to make sure that the platform is secure and also stable and can support this historic. Every year is a historic level of outreach and participation
Right.
in both the campaign side and in the NGO side. Like the Planned Parenthood is one of our clients, and obviously we've seen a tremendous unprecedented levels of attacks on women's right to choose over the past couple of years with that Cheeto that is in office right now. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
I think this is the place to say it.
yeah, this is if anywhere I can say it, it's Netroots, right? So the kind of campaigns they were doing had like hundreds of thousands of active users on them. I'm not sure those at the same time, but definitely participating in those. So we needed to make sure that the bandwidth was also able to support that level of outreach happening at the same time, both through text and through virtual phone banking. So we've got those bases covered for sure, and we can definitely, like I said, give you more white papers if you're interested in hearing more about that.
I think there are some questions about the Zoom integration and digital ads, which I believe you are going to touch on in a second.
Yes. So sit tight and we will get to that in a few. And so someone else asked, they're curious to hear about GOTV and voter education plans folks have for election day. So I think, to be honest, Samantha, I think that is still kind of in flux. We've definitely heard some, we don't know whether people are going to be doing in-person voting, whether it's going to be just mail-in, whether a lot of places are looking at electronic voting. So the plan really hasn't been solidified, but we have been looking, I think most people are just looking at the GOTV side and making sure that they have mobile campaigns around making sure that we're getting in contact with folks and that they do are intending to vote, even though if they don't know how they're going to vote yet.
Right. Yeah, I think that's still something that's just ever changing, especially depends on where you are in the country. What the if it's going to be in-person voting, is it going to be mail-in? So I think that's something that's still developing. And I think right now we're in a place of ready to react to whichever one it is that we are able to support you all in those efforts. So I think that's why we have, definitely developed a lot of our phone and texting and tools, if that's going to be the main way we're going to do outreach. And so I think it's just ever changing, and we'll be ready, whatever it is.
All right, so we're running a little low on time, so I'm gonna breeze through a few of these. So I don't wanna get, too in the weeds. Folks that have access to EveryAction are familiar with these, but I just wanted to give you a few ways that you can also stay engaged in the EveryAction side. Of course, we do have our integrated targeted email tool. We have an in-house deliverability specialist that makes sure that your emails are actually getting to inboxes. Because our online actions tools are integrated into that, you can do things like embed forms in emails, do one-click actions on both the advocacy and donation front. So there's lots of cool things that you can do on the targeted email front. We touched a little bit on the social matching and the influencer tracking. I think the influencer tracking is really cool. And I've seen some organizations do amazing things with that and tracking their influencers and plugging the data that you get from the influencer tracking into like webs and maps almost and infographics so that they can see that, okay, we started with 5,000 Twitter followers, but because of a few of these people that have 10,000 or 100,000 Twitter followers, every time somebody shares something, that it actually gets, 12 times the impact. Or every time this one particular person shares something, it gets 12 times the impact that it typically gets, and making sure that individual is really in the fold of the organization, because we know that they're going to make a huge impact in getting out the messaging. So yeah, that's really cool. And then of course, Facebook ads integration and engagement point to something that we've seen a lot of organizations using to have a more dynamic view of how their supporters or how their constituents are engaging with not only one vertical of work, so across both your advocacy team, across your grassroots team, across your development team, across the digital team, and seeing if there's one lane that a supporter is more apt to be involved in versus another, so that you know to move the communications that supporter to the channel that they have told you that they prefer to communicate on. So that's been really impactful for making sure you're routing folks to the right action and putting people, giving people the right tasks. So yeah, so again, back to Zoom. Zoom has been just tremendous, and we've seen, I mean, like I said, like things like doing virtual rallies and having speakers on that, to doing virtual town halls, virtual fundraisers, trainings, all of that on Zoom. But kind of like the issue that we saw with Facebook when they shut down their APIs is that because there was no integration with Zoom, folks were having these really great events on Zoom, but they were having to scramble and try to figure out how to get and capture the people that were involved on Zoom and get them into the EveryAction database and be able to continue that relationship or the communication with those individuals. So what we built is we built a tool, and we built it really fast, which I'm super proud of our team and how quickly we were able to turn around that Zoom integration. And what that does is it's an API that's a two-way sync, and it allows you to capture and identify the people the Sierra Jackson that is on our Zoom link is the same Sierra Jackson that gave her email and phone number on the EveryAction side. So I'm going to match her and mark her as attended for this event. So one thing that we also noticed and that we wanted to just plug in this presentation is definitely continue to ask for phone numbers when people are registering for Zoom events. And part of the reason for that is Zoom still is going to give folks the ability to not log in through the virtual platform, but to dial in as well. So we did see some folks that were having issues where somebody decided just to dial in instead of join the event through the link that was provided. So by doing that, our API will still capture if there's a phone number provided. It will capture them as an attendee if they have provided their phone number and the email when they RSVP. So that's just a tip to make sure that you are able to capture everyone that has attended your event. Can you all see my screen?
I can't see it anymore.
Okay.
So
that's actually, I believe, one of the last things that we had. Let me pop back out. For some reason, it's not loading. Oh, yep. So we made it to the end.
Yep. in good time as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right on time. So yeah. So one of the main things we wanted to get from this or to gather from this is that just because we can't do things as normal and it's a totally different world does not mean that we can't run really impactful, meaningful, personal campaigns. And that online and digital doesn't have to mean like out of touch and detached. We just have to use tools differently. So instead of using just email or instead of using that door-to-door, we've got other tools in our arsenal that we can go to. So that phone, email, social media, and still leveraging those personal connections and getting folks to do that peer-to-peer element as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think, I am, pretty proud of us as in like the progressive movement, and GP, and the ability that we were able to pivot as fast as we were able to and just decide, okay, this is what it is now, but we still need to get our message across. And so here's how we're going to do that. And so we want to make sure we're supporting all of you and those efforts, and making sure you have what you need to get to win this. And win this is, whatever it is, if it's making sure your issue gets passed, if it's getting your candidate elected, we're here to help. And so, hopefully this was helpful to give you an overview of how we've been able to pivot and been able to, still be able to help you all with your new organizing and field plans.
Absolutely. So we still have, I know we're getting kicked off right at noon, but we still have a few minutes for questions. So let's go back to the Q&A.
Yep.
You have 8 minutes. You have minutes before this hard out. So
Okay. Got it.
We can work with that.
So yeah, I think there was a question is setting up Zoom integration pretty intuitive? It is. So if you have, depending, whatever platform you have, in terms of if it's NGP, if it's VAN or on the EveryAction side, as long as you have our digital tools, the Zoom integration is also included. So if you are able to send out email on any one of those, or create online forms, you do have the Zoom integration, and it's really just a matter of linking the Zoom meeting to NGP, and it can kind of walk you through that when you're creating your event on either platform. Just linking the Zoom meeting link, and then it'll start the sync. And you can also backdate it too. So if you had, let's say you didn't have a Zoom, until today, but you had a couple Zoom meetings like a week ago, you're able to use that link if you still have it, and it'll also include that information into your platform. And so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. If you're not sure if you have digital tools on whatever platform you're on, we can definitely help with that. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it.
Yeah. Oh, there is one more. Oh, yes, that is the next slide. So.
Oh, contact info. Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, do reach out to us, please, because we do want to help.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want to reach out to us personally, both Ashley and I are on the Netroots app. So definitely feel free to add us on the Netroots app, say hello. If you have other questions or things that are more organizational specific. I know someone asked earlier about, trying to figure out their GOTV plan. We're happy to walk through, what might look good for your organization, or what might be a good fit for your organization, or talk through some suggestions for that. So feel free to reach out to us on the app, or you can email us. My email is sjackson at EveryAction. It rhymes.
I never realized that.
Yeah.
EveryAction Jackson.
Yeah, Action Jackson. That's my name. Yep, and Ashley
is A Wilson at ngpvan.com.
Yeah.
Any other questions come up? I think that is it. Oh, there, I will put mine on there as well.
Oh, thank you. Awesome.
All right, well, yeah, if no other questions, thank you so much for spending your first session of Netroots with us. And definitely feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. Oh, it didn't. Oops. Thank you for that. Sorry. I'm still learning how to use Zoom, clearly. There you go. I
Yes,
think that worked.
absolutely. I'm really excited now that we're over to see some of the other presentations. There's some really awesome stuff that that Rich has got on tap for the rest of the day and for the rest of this weekend. So thanks for kicking it off with us.
Yes, definitely. Well, thanks for coming.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Well, I guess we can just hang out till we get kicked off.
Is that what happened?
I think so.
Okay.
I can kick anybody out right now. So, you know, that's the option. If you guys are ready to go. And
Yeah, I mean, I just
think-
was going to
I
wait
think
to
the
see if there was,
attendees are leaving.
yeah, it looks like folks are leaving, but
Any
okay,
last questions?
no, well, thank you so much for helping.
I need to find that help for that Zoom integration. It's like, oh, I can go past Zoom meeting, start integrating past Zoom meeting.
Yeah, so if you have,
Relation.
yeah, so let me, what was the county party again that you were working with?
Colin,
Colin
Uh,
County.
I'm a former camp manager for Tom who just worked for HD7 and we just lost the rush and ago. So it's like, okay, we lost the run. Hey, got the van. I can go out and I can go tell. I'm Collin County, my county, so
Yeah,
like,
so
hey, I can
definitely.
get that out too.
Yeah, so as long if you have EveryAction digital tools, or if you're on NGP or VAN and you have online forms turned on, or digital organizing turned on, you'll have access to the Zoom integration.
Okay, one thing that is slightly to me is an action. I can't label to a state file ID or
You're breaking up a little bit. Is it just me, or
VAN.
Yeah.
it's kind of spotty?
Hey, so what I really like is in every, if I integrate my folder and my action, I can attach a state voter ID to a person, and so it comes in as, hey, I'm importing stuff over here, importing a list of phone numbers over here, and maybe it'll a that matches that, but I had a file ID attached to that to make sure I had a identifier that I attached to that and make sure it was definitely that person. You know, hey, this who gave to me money to me when in San Antonio is now living in El Paso or Houston. It's like, you know, have that identifier and keep that around and know they're the same.
Okay, I think I
Yeah.
got that. Did you hear that, Sierra?
It sounds like it's a bulk upload thing. So yeah, if you want to email Ashley, we can take a look at it and then make sure that we see if support can help out.
Yeah, definitely. Feel free to email me or Sierra, and then we can take a look. It sounds like you're on EveryAction, but this might be a VAN to EveryAction situation. Yeah, it's EveryAction integration. It's like I've got my email and I've made sure to go through and attach file ID to all of my orders, and it's shit. Have that field reaction that was really suiting. So okay. So yeah, definitely reach out to us and then we can take a look.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Great. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.